Okay, so here we go again. Okay, in this little tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to make an enemy spawn at a position in our room at random times. Okay, so what I've done over here, I've created another enemy and I've called it SPR spawn, and I've created an object obj underscore spawn, and I've also created a object spawn timer. Now you'll notice that with this object, I've created the object, and we're going to put some code in here in a second, but this object here does not have a sprite. Okay, so we're going to put it into the room because it's just going to be a counting mechanism, and at a random interval objects will spawn. So we won't actually see anything here, but basically it will just control when the objects get spawned. Okay, so first thing we need to do is in our spawn timer here, let's go add event, and it's going to be a create event. Okay, so when the game's created, we want to put in a number of steps. So we're going to create some alarms. So basically it's just a timing mechanism. Okay. All right, so if we open up main 1, no, main 2, there we go. If we open up main 2, basically we've got this set alarm. So let's drag that in. Now it says number of steps. Now we're going to go random and then in brackets 120. Okay. Now in GameMaker, 30 steps equals 1 second. Okay, so basically this alarm is going to operate for 4 seconds. 4 times 30 is 120. Okay, and so at random points in those 4 seconds, bits and pieces are going to fall. Okay, something's going to happen in this alarm. Okay, so we're going to create that alarm. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add an event, and it's going to be an alarm event, and it's going to be alarm 0. Okay, now from the main 2 tab, okay, which we're already in, we're going to pull in another one of these timings. Okay, and again we're going to type in random 120. Ooh, yep, 120. On alarm 0. So basically we've initiated it, now we're calling it. Okay. So that's good. We're happy with that. So let's go OK and not quite OK. Now before we do this next step, I'm actually going to save this. Okay, so let's go there. Now let's open up level 1. Okay. Now in level 1 here, and you're not going to be able to, oh, whoops, object player, that was the wall. Okay, now sadly it's just outside of the view of my screen capture software. Sad face. Basically, down in the bottom left hand corner, as you move over your room, the X and the Y axis numbers change. So basically when I have my cursor here, I'm seeing X256, Y384. When I come up the top here, it says X448, Y32. So they're the coordinates on my Cartesian plane. So what you need to do is hover over a point in your room, okay, and you need to write down those 2 coordinates because we're going to put those into some code in a second. Okay, now one thing you'll notice here though, for me this is 448 on the x-axis and 32 on the y-axis. Now you can see this little blue sphere with a question mark on it. basically that is my object timer. I've already placed that in the room, okay? Now because it doesn't have a sprite, it just comes up as this little blue ball, okay? And basically it's going to be invisible in the game, alrighty? But when we come to play the game, this should be the spot where my objects are spawning and falling down in this direction. Okay, so let's save that. Now let's come back to our spawn timer. So in the alarm 0, basically what we need to do now is so we've initiated the alarm and we've created the settings in the alarm. What we now need to do is we need to get the create an instance of our enemy. Okay, so in the Move 1 tab, this very first block up the top, Create Instance. So when that's triggered, okay, we're going to create an instance of Object Spawn. And here, this is where we put in our X and Y coordinates. So mine were 448 on the Y axis, and it was 32 on the, so 448 on the X, 32 on the Y. Okay. Now, simply, that's done. That's all the coding that we need. Just one last thing though, is if I played the game now, basically the object would spawn in the game, but it would just sit there. So off air as well, I've thrown a little coding into here. So basically it's just saying that when this object's created, it's going to start moving in a downwards position at a speed of 12. Okay, and then I've got an object collision with the wall here, and when it hits the wall, it's just going to destroy the instance, which is this object spawn. Okay, so let's go ahead and play the game. Let's see how we go. Okay, so at random intervals, okay, there we go. So we just saw one object spawn from this point up here. There goes another one. Okay, so every 4 seconds, random times, we have an object falling down. Okay, and basically what you do with your game from there is entirely up to you, but basically it's just creating another variability in how you have your enemies work in your game. Okay, so hopefully you should be able to see something like this happening in your game. If you have, turn around to the person next to you, give them a big high five, maybe even a little cuddle. Don't get too close though. Alrighty. Good luck with that. Hope it all worked well. I'll see you in the next one.